Hello and welcome. We're going to go through how to answer a design a study question from the Paper 1 OCR A-level psychology course. And these are worth 15 marks and cause no end of confusion for students. So let's get stuck in and have a look. The basic idea is that you've got to work at this as if you were doing any kind of other training. And of course, we'll use a sporting analogy. Why not? The first thing you've got to do is have a plan of action. We're going to use this little example you can see on the screen from a 2019 paper. And the first thing you've got to do, of course, when designing a plan is actually understand the question. Once you've understood the question, you need to know how to structure your answer. You do need to aim to win, not to particularly to show off. It doesn't have to be a brilliant answer. You've just got to get the marks. All right. So you need to be accurate and you need to be precise, but you don't have to be excellent. So let's just have a little look at a worked example. So if we looked at this question, it is going to take a little bit of time on the screen just to do this. Obviously, always pause as you're going along if you're taking any notes. So this is a question, and you need to break it down when you're in the exam. I would suggest underlining, highlighting, whatever takes your pick. The first thing that stands out or should stand out to you that this is a correlation in relation to this question anyway, so not an experiment. So this is where we are looking at the strength of relationship between two variables, right? There is no IV and DV. We're not looking at cause and effect. We're just looking at the association or relationship between two variables. The two variables are a person's weight and their level of extroversion. So that's how much outgoing they are. As part of this, you need to justify your decisions. That's the number one problem many students encounter is they don't justify why they've planned to do something. Now, in terms of structuring your answer, you're going to write 4 paragraphs, right? So paragraph number 1, you're going to talk about sampling technique, at least for this question anyway. Paragraph number 2, you're going to talk about how you'd operationalize the variable of extroversion. To operationalize means to make something measurable. Okay. Paragraph 3, you're going to talk about any ethical concerns. And paragraph 4, you're going to talk about controlling one extraneous variable. Now, there's quite a lot of words there. You need to know what they all mean. And in other videos and in your lessons, you'll have covered those or be covering them. For today's video, we're just talking about how you're going to structure your answer. So you now know there should be 4 paragraphs and the exam board give you the 4 paragraphs you need to be talking about. You do not need to write any more than that. Now, the other bit that then sometimes confuses students is this last point in which you need to reference your own practical activities. Let's not worry about that at the moment. Most students fall down on the bits that we've just talked about and not being clear on those. Once you can nail the bits that we've just been looking at, you then can try and link what you're saying through to any practical activities you've done in class with your teacher. Now let's just have a look at a paragraph that I've mocked up. There is going to be a bit of text on the screen, but it gives us an example of what you should be looking at writing about. Now, just before we do that, the way that you should structure this paragraph is to name it, explain it, justify it, and link it. Okay, so first sentence, you need to be naming whatever you're going to be doing, then explain what you're doing, then justify what you're doing, and then, yes, at the end, try and link it to your own experience. So here's an example paragraph. And if you follow the structure, you basically can't go too wrong. So in the first thing that you're going to say in that first paragraph is, I'm going to use random sampling. Right? Now, you could have picked self-selected sampling, volunteer sampling, etc. Pretty much any sampling technique will work, so long as you identify what it is. Now, the next part is to explain that. So I've chosen random sampling. I don't need a big, long, lengthy explanation of what it is. I need to tell the examiner how it's going to be used in this study. So as it says on the screen there, it would be used to obtain participants to ensure the sample is representative. So long as there's a sample frame, note the technical language there, that just means a list of volunteers, then I could randomly select people from that. And of course, doing this does require you to have a decent understanding of research methods. If that's still a problem for you, you need to go back and have a look at your sampling techniques, know what they are, how they work, and then you can have a go at this kind of question. Now, the next part of your paragraph is to justify that decision. Now, you need at least one justification. In this worked example, I've given a couple of examples. Whether you get the time to write all of that, you're going to have to work on, and it depends on how quickly or you type or write as to how much you can put down. So I've given as much as I think you could get down in the time you've got allowed, and probably wouldn't get any more down. Just pause the video and you can read that yourself rather than me going through this. Then what you do, if you have time, is link it to your own research. Now, if you do this, that means you can access the top mark band. If you do not do this, you cannot access the top mark band. So if you do name it, explain it, and justify it, you could, and you did that for all 4 points, you could get up to 11 out of 15 marks, which is really good. All right. If though you want maximum marks, 15 out of 15, you would need to link each paragraph that you're writing to an experience that you've had in your own practical activities. Again, pause the video. You can read that yourself as to how to go about doing that. So let's go back. Now that's the basic plan. That's your plan. All right. So that's the most important bit. Once you feel confident with that, yes, you want to start doing some training. Now, obviously, you're already doing that in a classroom of some description, whether that's a virtual, remote, or physical classroom. So you need to listen to your teacher or teachers, follow their instructions. Most importantly, act on what they're telling you to do. So meeting deadlines and all those sorts of things so that you can do your training for these kinds of questions. The key aspect of this is, of course, doing past papers, past questions. That's the only way you're going to improve, right? The only way that people improve on anything is through practice. But that doesn't mean you've got to do it on your own. Many students often do work on their own, and that's understandable because you're going to be assessed in an exam on your own. But before the exam, there's nothing to stop you doing as much work as you can with other people. I would strongly recommend working with at least one other person. Don't do more than 3 or 4 because you end up like just chattering away and not really focusing on the topic. But if you work with 1 or 2 other people, you can each help improve each other's answers, answer questions that you're not sure about, and things like that. So that's where you do really want to be working together in some kind of informal study group. All right. But you obviously also need to write your answer up independently. That's really important because sometimes I've come across students who are really good at working alongside a study buddy, but then they never really do their own work. They just sit there talking and somebody else does all the writing. You do have to practice the write up, and you want to practice that independently. Um, Now, once you're doing that kind of thing, make sure that you're always following the paragraph structure, right? That is going to improve your skills and make you a master of this subject. Um, but you must be able to build the skills up. So you have to be able to name it first, then be able to explain it, then be able to justify it before you can try doing the linking, right? You've got to kind of do it in that order if you want to get good marks. And if you're falling down at any one of those stages, you need to get good at that before you move on. Now, once you feel confident enough with writing these paragraphs, remember there's going to be 4 of them for 15 marks, you need to start timing yourself. Now, obviously, when you're practicing, take as long as you need. But when you're getting to that point of execution and being able to run up close to an actual exam or mock, you must be timing yourself. Right? You're going to have to work out that timing, but very roughly, it's about a mark a minute on that paper. So you're going to have about 15 minutes, maybe a bit over, maybe up to 18 minutes um, to answer that question. Obviously, if you've got extra time, you're going to have to work out how much extra you would give to this question. Once you've done it, you must submit it to your teacher for marking. If you find yourself maybe not being given enough work in this area by your teacher for whatever reason, don't be scared to just give them extra work. I say this as a teacher, but students giving you extra work is really what you want. They may complain about it a little bit, but giving them extra work to do and extra marking, it's only got to be a good thing, even if it takes them a little bit of time to get it back to you. Now, when the teacher is getting that back to you, hopefully what they're doing is not just putting a mark on it for you. Hopefully, they put a mark on it for you, or at least indicate the area, the mark band that you would be working in, which is the most important bit. The actual mark varies, guys. Examiners have arguments all the time as to how many marks should be allocated to a given answer. What we shouldn't be arguing about is the band that your answer goes into. When I'm saying bands, have a look at the mark scheme and you'll see what I'm talking about. Um, but also, what your teacher should be doing alongside that is giving you very explicit advice as to what and where to improve. You need to go back to your answer and improve it in that area so you can feel confident with it. And then, of course, do it again. Have a go at either the same question again or a new question, whatever you're feeling more confident with doing. Right? There's no point in just getting a teacher to mark it without then acting on the advice that they're going to give you. All right. By the way, I know teachers tend to not use red pen anymore. Teachers tend to be very nice and pleasant, and that's great. But what you need is super constructive feedback that's going to tell you exactly where to improve. If you're not getting that, then just try and contact myself, and I'll obviously always try and do that for you as well. So there we go. Hope you found that useful, looking at how to go about answering a question on paper one, OCR A level psychology, the designer study question, which is 15 marks. And you get this right, it can make a difference, a significant difference in your grade.